This is Mark Zuckerberg, and this is Tech Addicts.
This week, the Xiaomi 12X versus the Xiaomi 12 and the Xiaomi 12 Pro. There's a couple of Xiaomi watches. There's a speaker for babies, interesting features for Android 13, and Netflix adding extra fees. Hello and welcome to this, the Tech Addicts podcast. I am Mr. Gareth Miles and this here's Ted. How you doing, Ted?
Hello, I'm alright, thank you. Looking forward to a nice short show today, ain't we?
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. I have some pending and looming obligations that I have to be a part of. So we're going to try and get this wrapped and done in a record amount of time.
Yeah.
So
Family
around
life.
about 2 hours probably. Then.
I fancy a barbecue, come to think of it. I like a barbecue and the sun's out now. So I should pop over. Is there a ferry still running on P&O?
No, there's probably not. There is Stena, which is keeping going there, and it's the one that you should spend your money on.
Okay.
So how are you, Mr. Ted?
Yeah, I'm ticking along, and it's clearly going to... Weather report is that summer's arrived, because as usual in this tin can I try to live in, it's baking hot. And it's not really that hot if you go outside, so perhaps I'll just go outside in future. And there's lawnmowers going, I can hear one now. It's noisy. Living in a static home is just noisy. If it's not summer mowing lawns and people on jet skis and on the sea, which is a stone's throw away, and helicopters going over, then in the winter it's rain and snow and wind causing noise. Living in a static is noisy. End of.
Are you checking Gumtree or, for the American listeners, Craigslist for second-hand stingers and things like that you can run around your house and then take out those lawnmowers as they go over them?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? Perhaps I'll pop over to Russia for some. No, let's not start that. No politics.
All right. Okay. Well, we do have a fairly packed show full of bits and pieces, so we're going to fire on into them. And it seems that the first bit of feedback is some prat called Ted.
That's not very nice. After all I've done for you. Last show we were talking about Windows 11 and me liking the kind of whole UI of it, the aesthetics of it, and trying to find ways of doing around. Anyway, we won't go across that again. But I did find a tabbed open source file explorer. So Windows are talking about adding tabbed to their Windows 11 file explorer, which I think is a really neat idea, but it's not here yet. But I found one, and it's called Files, imaginatively. I'll put a link in the show notes to it, and it does. I installed it, and I've used it, and it seems to work really nicely. It's very pretty. It's very Windows 11 in terms of design aesthetics, and it just seems to work really well. On GitHub, you go and get the files, and it's a bit of a nerdy, geeky thing, but it's not difficult to install, and it works fine. And there's a community there, and they iron out bugs and stuff, and it's all open source. So as I say, so if you fancy that, I'll put a link in the show notes. It's called just Files.
That's right, yeah, because we were putting out to see if there were any file explorer alternatives, and I think Total Commander was the only one I could remember off the top of my head. But there was another one as well, which I couldn't remember, and I still can't. Right, and we will be coming to more Windows 11-y type things, including a topic to do with this too, later in the show. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, that's the end of the listener feedback.
And that wasn't even a listener; it was me.
Yeah.
I'm a
Is
talker.
everyone sick this week? Or they're just not speaking to us because we missed a week and then we had a slightly shorter show at one stage?
Yeah, it's revenge, okay. I tell you.
We apologise. That's entirely my fault. I won't do it again. Aside from this week.
Except today,
it might be shorter. All right, moving into the hard line for the hardware. The first up is we have some information on the Xiaomi 12, the Xiaomi 12 Pro, and the Xiaomi 12X, where GSM Arena have drawn up a little bit of a comparison chart to show the differences between these three behemoths of phones. Ted, is there anything we should note? Is there anything on here that's worrying?
No, nothing that's worrying. Actually, what's interesting is that the 12X is the kind of poor relation to the other two, really. But it's the same size as the 12, and I like the 12. It's a 6.28-inch screen, and it's really dinky and pocketable. I think a bit like the Samsung Galaxy S10. When you go up to the Pro model, then it goes bigger. We're up to 6.7 inches in the usual way. Are you all right? You've fallen over there?
No, I'm getting a piece of paper.
Oh, I see. Making notes. Well done. Very, very, very studious. So on the Pro version, you also get these quad speakers. However, we have discovered, as we mentioned on PSC last night, that GSM Arena have assessed those and said, don't expect miracles. Don't expect a Samsung tablet kind of quad speaker experience because it's not that good. So that's a shame. And wireless charging across the two, but not on the X. So the X is a dumbed down 12. If you want a cheaper version of the 12, then the X is the one to go for. But if you're a serious nerd, then of course you'll be going for the 12 Pro. But I quite like the compromise of the 12 myself, and it's still got all the most of the goodies. Hasn't got the 2x optical zoom, but it's got most of the goodies that the Pro's got in a smaller body. So I like this. I like the 12. I should be interested to see how much it actually ends up being on the UK market. They're talking about. Actually, I think GSM Arena have screwed up their pricing here because they've got the non-Pro version more expensive than the Pro version, so I think that's wrong. Let's see if they've done it somewhere else. No, I'm not sure about pricing. Sorry.
You're all right. Obviously it usually comes in dollars and things like that, so it's difficult to actually get an accurate one off GSM Arena because they cover that many different nationalities or international areas. But looking at the platform, you can see the difference. The Qualcomm 8250, which is the 870 5G, with the Adreno 650 as opposed to the 8450 and the Adreno 730 in the other two. But it notably says that Android 11 is on the 12X as opposed to the other two, which is Android 12.
Yeah.
That's
a dumbed down version, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
The Snapdragon 870 clearly is a step down from the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which is if you discount the 8 Gen 2, which is not really out there yet, that's the latest and greatest, isn't it?
But it's not going to be, world apart from it. That's still a pretty damn snappy processor
Definitely,
in there.
Yeah.
So you'll be hard-pressed to notice the difference. And looking at the Geekbench scores, aren't that massively different to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it's good stuff. And I'm favouring the 12 myself, largely because of the physical size. And the fact that the 4-speaker setup of the Pro is not that great anyway.
No, they're three good-looking phones. Be interesting to see what colours they come in as well, because they're green.
Green's the thing at the moment, isn't it?
Seems to be. There is grey, blue, and purple listed, but they're all greyed out. So, and the 12X doesn't actually come in green, so it doesn't come in colour at all.
No. The greyed out bits are because this is a chart which I put together, which demonstrates the differences between them. So where it's grey, it means they're common to all of them. So you will get it in 4 colours, yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's good. It comes in colour. Grand. Yeah. So Xiaomi also have a watch, the S1 and the S1 Active. They also announced some Buds 3T Pros too. So they have some nice little things to go along with this and complete your Xiaomi experience. That watch looks gorgeous. In fact, yeah, is it the S1? I'd say the smaller one's the S1 Active because, well, it's active. But that S1 looks gorgeous in its render there.
It certainly does. The concerning thing about this, though, is that they've gone their own way with a kind of proprietary OS on this.
Oh no!
And it's not Wear OS. It's not. It's their own thing. That's the only concern. But you're right. I mean, if it takes off and if it becomes a standard, I suppose it's going to appeal to people that are using Xiaomi phones and other Xiaomi equipment, and make sure that all of those features work with all the other bits of equipment. Like buying into Apple, I suppose, to some degree, and making sure that all your gear is Apple gear. They're trying to cage their users, aren't they?
Yeah. It's Google's a wee bit weird with the Wear OS. They kind of do a big launch and then leave it for far too many years before they do another big launch. We're going to get another big launch at some point whenever the Pixel Watch arrives. So that'll be, we've had Wear OS. Then they blew their trumpets and went, Wear OS 2.0 was here a couple of years later. And now a couple of years later, we're going to have something else, which probably might be Wear OS 3. With a Pixel Watch, by which time most of these manufacturers have kind of deviated onto their own course with something that they prefer or works better with their overlay on the Android device that they're manufacturing. Xiaomi seem to have done that too here, but it's notable that this active one has a 1.43-inch AMOLED display, or is that the S1? It's a wee bit higgledy-piggledy, actually. They're both
1.43 inch.
That's all right, yeah. With a heart sensor, SP02 reader, and 5 ATM water resistant. Yeah,
that means 5 meters, doesn't it?
At the minute, yes.
Is that right?
No, I don't know.
Yes. What about
could be miles? M generally stands for miles, doesn't it? As well as meters.
As in Gareth?
No, as in the distance.
As MYLES?
Yes, or as some people do pronounce it, miles.
But you're. I mean, I hate the look of these buds, obviously, because I hate earbuds that stick in your ear. But I suppose you'll be more interested in those. Do they sound like they might be interesting?
I don't know. I think I've gone back to over-ear headphones. I much prefer those.
Yeah.
I think it's just whenever you get ones that fold and they can go in a case, you can just throw them in your bag, and I don't mind them being they hold so much more battery power, and I find that they tend to last a good bit longer, and you don't stick them in your ear and then a week later you have itchy ears because you've worn them for a couple of hours. I think buds are just something that they can manufacture cheaply and put out. Doesn't use a lot of R&D or resources, so they are tuppence halfpenny perhaps, and it's just that's why everybody's doing them.
Yeah, and it's just the in thing, isn't it? That's what the kids are doing, and there's no wires and it's easy. My only objection, as I'm well reported saying, is that they're in canal and not just sit on the edge of your ear, which is much less intrusive and less likely to give you an ear infection. Anyway, let's not go there, Gary. The buds are $200 apparently, which is actually quite expensive. But the watch is, well, the S1, I don't know about the Active, but the S1 is $269. So again, quite aggressive pricing for the watch. And yeah, I mean, if you had a Xiaomi phone, you might be tempted, I think.
Yeah. And we'll be coming back to in-canal audio devices later on. See if you can spot where, listener. All right. So next up is a stylus that some fella called Steve Litchfield, I don't know if you've heard of him, he's reviewed over on All About Mobile, and this is the do we go French here? A Renaissance Raphael 530 stylus, the Renit pencil,
the Raphael.
Yeah,
I've got one of these as well. In fact, I put Steve onto it because he lent me his Duo 2, and I thought this stylus, which is really good, is like a quarter of the price of getting set up with the official Microsoft one. And I did lots of reading before I ordered it, and sure enough, everyone's saying this is a no-brainer. Just buy this one instead of Microsoft's. Microsoft's one doesn't even come with any way of charging it. No way of charging it. it, you've got to buy the charger on top for another 30 quid. It's just nonsense. Anyway, this one's really nifty. It's really good. It charges with USB-C. So on the side of it, it's got a USB-C hole, and you just stick your charger in it. The charge lasts for about a month. It's got a button on the side, and it does pretty much everything that the official one does, to be honest. And Steve was blown away with it, as was I. I've still got the Duo. I've sent the Duo 2 back to him now. But I've still got Ben Wood's original Duo, which it works on as well, of course. So I'm playing with it. It's good. It's fine. I had a situation this week where I had to do a signature on something, which is unusual, and that was a really good and easy way of doing it. I don't normally use that, but I like your missus, actually. I have been using it to just, instead of my finger on the screen, and it's actually quite a nice experience. It's quite a nice way to be navigating your screen, and certainly very accurate where it needs to be. So yeah, nice pen.
Yeah, it certainly looks it. It doesn't look too big, but it doesn't look too small like the S Pen that you get with Samsung ones. So you feel that you've got a bit of heft, but it's not too hard to stick in a blazer pocket, if you like.
No.
Where do you usually store it?
Well, that's one of the things that I was going to say, criticising it. It could really do with a clip for a pocket. It hasn't got that. So it has, on the Duo, there's a little bit of magnetisation, but it doesn't really work very well. If you hold it in the right position on the back of the Duo, it does kind of clamp to it by magnet, but it doesn't do it very well. So yeah, consequently, it gets left on the sofa or coffee table or desk or whatever, and when you want it, you've got to go and try and find it.
Have you tried sellotape?
It's a good idea. Or blue tack.
That's right. Steve's always going on about blue tack, isn't he? White tack or black tack as well is also available. Yeah. No, it looks good. And if Steve's loving it, then must be worth it. Okay, so we have a little article that, Ted, you've come across on ZNet about the numbers and, daubings that go on the side of a micro SD card and regular SD card, and what they actually boil down to and what they mean, because when you're looking on Amazon, you have to check that it's got this, that, and this, that, depending on what you actually are going to be inserting it into, and it can be a bit of a headache to try and work out if it's going to work well with your device, whatever it happens to be. Any tips or suggestions or anything you've picked up from this article?
Well, the thing that I was always focusing in on was the number inside the little U bucket thingy, and thinking that 3 is better than 1. But actually, I think, as we discussed before, Gareth, if you're just doing what I do with a memory card, which is loading media on it to play onto a phone, you really don't need any more than the 1 in the bucket, and that's the UHS speed class. When you start to move up into kind of video capturing and rendering and read writes, there's a one on the right hand side called the video speed class, which is on this particular example is V30, and that depends depending on if you've got V10, 60, 90, whatever. Obviously, it depends on how fast those read writes are going to be to sort out your video stuff. But there's a little table. We'll put a link in the show notes to this article, which is just a good reminder of what all those kind of things mean and if they're important to you. And as I say, the one thing that I discovered was I don't really need to waste money on a UHS 3 class for the things I use it for. So I might as well go and get a cheap 1 class one. But it's a good reminder, a little table to help you have a look through, and
Well, it is very handy to know, and it's the strangest thing. Some of these, some devices don't work with the faster cards. You may put an SDXC in a device, and it doesn't register with it. It doesn't understand what it is because it's too large for whatever it happens to be. I have a dash camera that I dug out recently to put into a car for a relative who's visiting, and I whacked in a 32 gigabyte, I think it was a U3 card for capture of footage on the road. And every time it started to record, the camera would reset. Right. I was getting really perplexed. I thought there was something wrong with the battery or something like that. And then eventually I found a 64 gigabyte one that was that didn't have the U bucket on it, put it in, and it worked perfectly.
Right.
So I think the card was just, I don't know, too fast for whatever device it for the dash cam that it was. But it was an HD dash cam, which was weird. And I can't explain as to why. It's just whatever firmware that's on there.
It might be to do with the size as well of the storage, because I've got a Zoom H6 recorder, and I put my 256 gigabyte card into that. SD card, and it just didn't recognize it, just didn't see it. And
but this was the other way round.
When I read up
it didn't work with the 32, it did with the 64.
Oh, I see. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
But it wasn't a U. It didn't have a U value on it. It was just I think I picked a few of them up for maybe £2 or £3 on one of our deals some time ago.
Okay.
I've got a bunch of them sitting there just so I can throw into security cameras, the SD ones and the lower rate HD ones that I happen to have. And the slower card work.
The one on the left is an HC, and the other two are XC and XC2.
Yeah.
So presumably, okay. Yeah. My example, which I was actually quite surprised about, was that this H6 recorder, which you'd think would be up and swinging with everything, I read up the blurb afterwards, and sure enough, it says you can't put a card in it more than 128 gigabytes. And that's it. Yeah. End of story. And I thought, oh, that's a bit... we're used to phones now. You can put whatever card you like in, up to 1 terabyte. I'd be very surprised now to find a phone that wouldn't take a 1 terabyte card. And yet this H6, which is not a cheap device, I suppose what they're doing is saving money in terms of their hardware and software to read stuff, because they reckon that audio recording on a 128 gigabyte card you wouldn't fill up in your lifetime anyway.
Yeah, well, it's back to the days of, I don't know, MS-DOS and Commodore Amigas, where you can use double density discs in a double density drive as opposed to a high density disc in a double density drive.
Yeah. It's all quite interesting. Anyway, there's an interesting chart in there for reference, and it's quite a nice little article.
It is, yeah, and you can see the difference between the XD or the XC cards, because they have an extra layer of pins afterwards, so that they can capture more quickly.
So they do.
You have to use that for 4K with the higher bit rates and things, so it can write faster.
Very clever chap.
Yes. Yeah. All right, not me. No, I just. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of storage devices, we have the Acer Storage, which is a new line of 128, 256, and 512 gigabyte CF Express B memory cards. These are ones that you put into your camera, I'm guessing, and you use them on the go for fast snapping.
I got a bit lost with this, and I had to actually go and explore and look it up, because apparently Compact Flash Express is a new thing that comes with new high-flying cameras that are coming out these days, like from Sony. And again, I'll put a link in the show notes to an explaining article as well that shows that explains what's what. But I had no idea about this. When I had my digital camera back in the day, I had a compact flash card, which is the normal size. But apparently these are all different now, and they're physically different as well. So you've got to be actually quite careful. Have you ever heard of this?
Well, yeah, I've been using compact flash for quite some time. My Commodore Amiga 1200 runs off one.
Oh, an Express one?
No, not the Express,
right.
the regular one. But I'd seen the Express coming along, and I just thought that was more of a kind of a pro photographer format.
I think it is, but it's just physically a different size, and I had no idea.
Yeah, and you get specific cameras that use it and things that are the top end ones.
Wow.
But it says here that it's got a UV guard on it. It's magnet proof, X-ray proof, and anti-static, which is all good to have, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. It's aimed at pro photographers, really, where all these things really matter. But it was my big learning of the week. That was because I just thought compact flash was compact flash, but it's not. And if you're buying a posh new camera, you've got to be careful with that.
Yeah, the older form of compact flash retains its value because they're still used in a number of high-end cameras as well. Mm-hmm. So if you're going on to look for, I think I bought a 512 gigabyte or maybe a 4 terabyte one. That's what I got recently, and it was a good amount because I wanted to load on the entire of the Amiga back catalogue to my A1200. And yeah, it was expensive because they're still expensive.
Yeah, amazing. Do you remember the, was it an IBM micro compact flash? Back in the day when I had a Scion, I think it was. No, not a Scion. It was some organizer. And they brought out this compact flash that actually had a spinning drive inside. Do you remember that? Got a feeling it was... Yeah.
Micro drives.
Micro drive, yeah, that was it. I never actually had one, but I remember lusting after one, and it just seemed quite bizarre to have a spinning drive in something so small.
Yeah, they were an old thing that they were around from the early 80s, and I remember Clive Sinclair put them into the Spectrum QL.
Oh, right.
And he had there were two of them on the right-hand side, and you could, one would write and the other would read, I think. I might be wrong about that. But they were essentially like 8-track technology, but miniaturized.
Right.
And they were incredibly unreliable. But I think they must have got them going slightly better for IBM. Whenever IBM kind of laid their mitts on them, I imagine they would manage to get a better amount. Having a quick look at them, they took them up to 8 gigabytes in 2006.
Yeah. I do remember wanting one, but I can't remember what device I could possibly have used it in. It wasn't a camera. It was some sort of organizer, some PDA or something. I just can't remember.
Yeah, it could have been the old HP PDAs as well. They had a port at the back, didn't they, that would fit things. I think I remember trying to put a compact flash into it once and it didn't fit.
Right.
And I couldn't work out what it was.
Well, these micro drives were exactly the same size as a compact flash.
Yeah.
The ones that I'm thinking of, anyway. So.
But they wouldn't work quite as well, or they. I don't.
Yeah, they were just slow, like most spinning drives, I suppose.
Well, good news, Ted, because you can finally play your favourite tunes inside a pregnant lady to a baby. As we've been talking about for years on this show, we've been wanting something like this. You can take a speaker. Let's put this as delicately as possible, and place it gently in the birthing canal, I think would be the word for it. I don't know. Where the stork comes down the chimney, you can put the speaker up and hook it up to your iPod and play it. And conveniently, it also has a splitter as well, so you can put in some headphones too, and you can listen to the same stuff that you're pumping into your baby.
This is going to be an early April the 1st thing, isn't it? How far are we away? We're 10 days away from April the 1st. I can't believe that's true. That's just nonsense. It's called the Baby Pod.
That's right, yes. And it's a Spanish device that I'm opening up now to see if I can work out how expensive they are. So buy Baby Pod.
114 quid.
$150, right? Okay, so yeah, it works out about that. They're hypoallergenic. They're patented, of course. Thankfully, they're water protected as well, so you don't have to. If you were to suddenly go, then or your waters break or something, you don't have to worry about wrecking it. They're IP66, but there must be some demand for this. I do know that my wife used to set her phone on top of her belly when she was pregnant and play some light music, and she would feel the little one knocking about in there, having a bit of a dance. But
some woman says, yeah, exactly that. For the first time I've used it, I put the music on. It felt like the baby was dancing and moving his arms and legs and head a lot inside me. It was marvellous.
And if you work about the other way, the baby can't escape if you're playing something god awful at them. Where do they go?
You could brainwash a child before they were born, couldn't they? If you started, reading, getting audiobooks to indoctrinate them with capitalism or communism.
Wow.
Yeah. The
Fair enough. Okay, that's one direction to take this in, I suppose. Let us know if you've been entertained by buying one of these. Would you purchase one of these and pump the Tech Addicts podcast in there. Turn your little one into a moron before they arrive. Yeah, that's a bit of an odd thing. But I suppose if it becomes a thing, you never know. The big companies might start doing them. You might be able to get one directly from Apple, or Google, and be able to use that. It could become a whole new.
I still say that's an April Fool. I reckon I don't think that exists.
I just like the fact that there's a splitter and you can take your headphones off it as well, so you can listen to the same thing.
Yeah.
So from that on to something that isn't included in your iPhone and your Google phone and things like that. Apple have made quite a bit of money by not packaging cables. No, they are packaging cables. They're just not packaging plugs and things like that in their phone boxes whenever you purchase a phone. So it appears, and Hyperbeast are saying that Apple have made an additional $6.5 billion by not including accessories in the box. It's quite a bit of money.
In the name of eco-friendliness. So I wonder if the $6.5 billion has been gone across to planting trees and stuff and doing the eco things that I bet it hasn't. That whole thing about selling the chargers for $19 and they reckon they're saving $35 per device. If you read the comments on this further down the page, they're obviously launching into Apple big time about the fact that shareholders are just profiteering from this, and actually trying to say that it's to save the planet is not reflected in the fact that the money is just going to profit and not being put back into the planet, like other companies like Fairphone and Nokia are doing. Planting trees. If you buy a Nokia phone, you get to plant trees and all this sort of thing. They're actually seen to be doing something with that. Whereas, as far as I know, and as far as these commentators know, Apple are just not doing that. But maybe we're all wrong.
Well, I have a phone that was issued to me by the UK government, and it comes in its box. It's an iPhone SE. It doesn't have a charger with it, so I get a charger as well. They didn't ask me if I wanted a charger, but that just means that the taxpayer is having to pay for the iPhone plus an additional charger. And whenever they issue that to how many civil servants are there out there? How many government employees are there out there? How many policemen, women, and fire crews and nurses and things like that require a work phone? And all of them are now having to have an additional plug bought for them. So it's money that's just coming out of taxpayers' money as well. Not to mention private businesses that are having to do that too. I imagine that they will probably be a wee bit more clever about it and actually ask. Does anyone need a charger to go along with their iPhone? But that's a question that they've never had to ask in the past, and it just gets bundled in and packaged. I don't use the charger that came with it because I have a charger that was able to be used, so it's just sitting here in its packaging. And whenever I have to return the phone at whatever stage, I can give it back to them unpackaged, and hopefully they can get some money back for it, or just pass it on to the next person. Or maybe someone will take it home with them. Who knows? But it's extra money that was shelled out on top of the price that has kind of stayed the same over the last number of years.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very irresponsible.
Totally, very, very totally. Right, okay, so moving into the app territory where we have a lot more, a lot more bits and pieces. I got excited there and started talking with my hands. So moving into File Explorers again, we've been there before. There was a strange thing that popped up somewhat recently. I can't remember where I saw it, or you saw it, or whoever saw it, but Microsoft could be bringing ads to Windows 11's File Explorer. And this was a very worrying thing, because obviously we use the File Explorer quite a bit. But for Windows to pop in an ad there raised hairs on the back of most people's neck. to the fact that they could be doing this. Ted, did you have a chance to look at this?
Well, no one's seen it apart from the people that uncovered it. So there's no, from what I've seen, there's no renders of anyone actually seeing a screenshot of it. But the point is that after this had kind of hit the news, Microsoft said that no one was supposed to have seen that. So what the inference of that was that it was something they were playing with and working with and possibly exploring, but actually some buffoon in the office has nicked it and kind of put it out there as news. And so they haven't denied it, but they did say that no one was supposed to see that. Nobody was supposed to see that, they said.
Yes, in a statement they said it was an experimental banner that was not intended to be published externally and was turned off.
Yeah,
there's nothing more sinister than those words, turned off,
yes.
Because they can be turned on then. It's been built and implemented and can be just turned on.
It's a bit annoying when these companies that have so much money, like we just said about Apple, are just looking to make even more. It's almost like it's immoral almost that Microsoft, they don't need to do this, you know. It's a bit like Sony bundling Asphalt 9 and Call of Duty in their phones. You said, come on, Sony, you don't need to do this. You're not a Poco or a Xiaomi or an Oppo little company knocking things out the park really, really cheap. This phone is £1,200, and you don't need to do a deal with PUBG or whatever it is. And Microsoft is the same, I think. They don't need to be doing adverts inside one of their core pieces of software for their computers. End of rant.
Oh yeah, okay, no, that's okay. You can carry on ranting about that. I fully agree. Every time you see Facebook on a phone to already installed, that angers me.
Yep, absolutely.
And everyone else, I suppose, in the world too. Yeah. All right, moving on with a bit more Windows 11 news, and that is that they are touting a new built-in video editing app, and it's Clipchamp. I don't know if anyone's ever used that, but I just foolishly signed up to it when I bought my Chromebook. Google said, "Here, have 3 months free on Clipchamp," and I went in and had a play with it for a while, and then got rid of it and removed it, and keep getting spam from them. But Microsoft have bought them out and are looking to include them in Windows 11 as their built-in video editing app, as opposed to the ones that we've had in the past. Or if you remember, Movie Maker was kind of fun all those years ago. It was quite nicely fleshed out. iMovie alternative. There still is a video editing thing inside the Photos app. That's okay. And if you drill down, you can find more features in it, which is quite good. But crucially, this Clipchamp thing has plans that you can pay monthly for, and they're crap. The first one is Basic, which allows you to export at 480p. The second one is Creator, for the YouTube creators and things out there, people who are trying to establish them on YouTube and stuff like that can export at 720p. Now, Ted, I know that's a fine resolution for you, but for people who are creating for YouTube and streaming channels, 720p isn't great. Then there's Business, because you can't be a creator if you're using 1080p. You have to be Business, and that allows you 1080p exports, not 4K, 1080p, or even 2K, 1080p. And Brand Kit, I don't understand what that is. And then there's Business Platinum, which allows, that's $40 a month, 1080p exports again, not 4K, 1080p. And includes a load of unlimited video stock footage and things like that you can use. So they've done a deal with somewhere like I can't remember what is it, iStock or whatever, or those online stock photo companies, and you can go and add stuff into it, so you can make your YouTube videos or whatever. But you still can't export at 4K, which YouTube is kind of pushing for people. So for $40 a month, it's a complete rip-off. Would you use this at all, Ted?
No. This is I've never done video editing in my life. I was hoping that you would jump on this, which you did, and carry it. Well done. But when I did post this story in the MeWe group, Mike Robbins jumped in and said to try the DaVinci Resolve for free editing, video editing, as it's very good, says Mike. And I did have a look at that. I went through and clicked through and had a look at this, and it looks really, really professional. And there is a free level. You pay more to do more with it. But have you used that one?
I downloaded it once and had a play with it, but it's quite ambitious. It's not as simple as the ones that you would have in Windows, so they wouldn't do for the majority of people. And I already I've purchased another piece of software as well that just I knew how to use, so I carried on using that for the duration of the subscription. But there are so many options out there for the person, the creator, who's going to pay $9 a month for 720p exports.
Yeah.
That 9 times 12. 9 12s are 108? 108? No. Grief. If my son was here, he
9 times 12. 9 times 12. 10 times 12 is 120. Minus 12 is 108, yeah.
Okay, I'm not that bad. It just didn't sound right in my head. So that's $108 for 720p exports. Whereas you can go to a company like, Adobe do their Premiere Elements. I think their Cyberlink is probably around 50 quid or $50 for the year, and they're not great editing systems, but they do 4K. They're competent. They're full of features and things like that, which you can't check for Clipchamp to see Clipchamp. Oh, that just annoys me. No, steer clear of this. And if it's going to be built in, there's got to be some way to remove this crap.
Well, there isn't with most of their tools, is there? You can't remove Teams and you can't remove Skype. You can't just remove it from Windows these days.
Yeah. And then just buy a Mac then, because you get iMovie for free.
Yeah, that's what the article is saying, actually, isn't it? Is that there are better tools out there, but at least unlike the Windows File Explorer with adverts, at least they're being upfront about it and saying, if you want to use this, it's a subscription. Even if the model is crap. Most commentators are saying that the 1080p should be the baseline, and the middle one should be 720p should be the baseline, 1080p for the middle one, and 4K for the top one, and then they'll be a bit more happy with the pricing.
Yeah. But even taking that 720p exports at $9, so we've established that's £108. You can actually go on to eBay or Gumtree or Craigslist and purchase an old G3 or G4 and achieve 720p exports for maybe $200, and that'll probably last you 3 or 4 years before it dies. Yeah, so it's a whole dedicated computer that'll probably output faster and not put as much strain on your desktop or laptop.
And probably one that knows their 9 times table.
Well, I established that I did.
Oh dear.
Well, you don't rattle them off as much as you used to.
No.
Although,
when I was at school, you just learnt them by rote, and clearly we've just both demonstrated that I couldn't remember the answer either for 108, 9, 12. But when I was at school, it was that's what they need to put into women's channels on those. So before you're born, you learn your tables.
I would use another word other than channel.
Pipe. No. Let's move on.
Yeah. My son's up to his 8 times. No, he's not. He's done them. He's now doing division by. So we're up to divided by 8 and working his way sort of backwards like that. He's done his times tables. So maybe that's why I was able to recall it slightly faster than I probably would have been able to recall it had he not touched those at all.
Uh-huh.
All right, from one waste of time, Clipchamp, to another waste of time. Google Play Games for PC has gone live, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get it just yet. The team behind Google Play Games should have probably been put onto Wear OS 3.0 and got that sort of, motoring over rather than doing this waste of time. Because who's going to sit down at a Windows 10 or 11 PC and play Fruit Ninja or something like that? Or, there's multiple different gaming clients on desktop PCs and things.
I'll tell you an exception to that would be I've got this SimCity clone, which is an Android app, and I don't play it because, frankly, on a phone it's just rubbish. It's far too small, and on a tablet it's just about playable. But if I got that up onto a big screen, I would actually play that. It reminds me of the old SimCity, the old days, SimCity 2000. And there's an example of
It's a Pocket City.
Yeah, that's right, Pocket City, and there's the one. If I had that on a big screen, I would actually use it. So, but that fair enough. That is only one example.
Well, why don't you just play SimCity 2000? It's much better.
Because you have to kind of you can't download it in the same way as you used to be able to get it on a disc, and it does. If you go to abandonware software or something, I've tried that, and it just doesn't. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't play the same, and
it's on GOG.
Exactly.
How much is it?
Exactly. You've got to go through these routes to find it. And anyway, the point is that
It's £4 on GOG.
The point is that I've already paid for it with my reward points on Google Play Games. So I was just giving you an example of something that would be useful.
No, you're not selling this to me.
And there's Monopoly as well. Monopoly,
Oh.
I own that on Google Play Games, and you can't play that on a phone. But on a big screen, you could do the Monopoly. You could see the whole board then. Your turn.
No, I'm not. Yeah. Games are gradually all the old games that you love that new games seem to be based on. The likes of Pocket City just takes volumes out of SimCity, and whenever I go to install a new game on from Google Play, I'm just seeing that there's probably a PC version of it that's infinitely superior in some way, either historically or available now on Steam or GOG or one of the many game stores that you have on the PC. And that's probably where you're going to go to get it. There was a game I was playing for a while, I mentioned it once before, called Game Dev Tycoon. And I was loving it on my tablet. I really enjoyed it. It was good fun. And I'd say, yeah, that would probably be one game that could really captivate me if it was on desktop. So I went and had a look on Steam, and there it was on desktop for £3. And I bought it, and it's got tons more features. It's got loads more things you can do in it. Oh, right, okay.
But you can't pick that up now and go and play it on your tablet, though, if you wanted to. If it was a game, the point about this is that it's cross-platform, and you can't play a GOG or a Steam game on your your 80 quid Motorola mobile phone, whereas
No.
Whereas if it's cross-platform, you can just do it anywhere. I can see what they're trying to do here to make it all cross-platform, aren't they?
Yeah, I suppose, yes. Yeah, that is one point. But I still don't like it.
You concede.
I'll just put the team over onto Wear OS and get them to redevelop that.
Anyway, you've got to be in Hong Kong, South Korea, or Taiwan to do this anyway at the moment.
All right. Well, maybe they'll get the most out of it. Perhaps that's where they get the most clicks.
Yeah.
Or they've got smaller computers and things there, and they'll be able to sell more on those platforms.
Yeah.
Google Play Store is also going to promote tablet apps with a quality ranking.
Yeah.
So what Google wants, I love how this starts. Google wants to make, it's from Ars Technica. Google wants to make 2022 the year of the Android tablets. 12 years after Android tablets came to market. And
only because iPads are doing so well.
Yes, true. Like they haven't been doing well in the last 12 years.
Yeah.
So they're going to have some sort of new area that you'll be able to see whether or not this works well on a large screen. And this will also benefit people who are using Chromebooks and things like that. So it's a really good incentive to start either buying or looking at Android tablets if you want to move across. But it will be a while before all apps start to catch up with this. But to be entirely honest, I don't see that many apps that fail badly on Android tablets or indeed on Chromebooks. You can play around with them enough to be able to get most of them to work. Ted, do you think this will be of particular note or benefit?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea because there are applications that don't work very well in landscape, and if you know before you go, as a new phrase, then yes, then it'll be helpful. I think. I'm trying to think of some examples of things that don't work very well in landscape. Gmail is one. Which is just, when I try and use Gmail on my tablet, it's just awful. And with 12L, I think they're changing that. Well, I know they are. And we'll come to some other changes with 12L shortly. But, yeah, I think that if apps are... I mean, MeWe, that's another one. We've got a community in MeWe, as everyone knows. And if you try and put that up on a landscape screen, you just get a column down the middle. It looks crap and it looks stupid. And if that had a quality rating in the Play Store, you say, oh yeah, someone's developed this to work properly with 12L. Excellent, I'll have a go at this. And there must be thousands and thousands of apps that just do that. Twitter does that as well, doesn't it? Column down the middle just doesn't work properly.
I don't remember how Twitter looks on the tablet. I think I just use it through the browser.
Yeah. Well, of course you can do that. But we're trying to go cross-platform here.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I've got everything set up the way I want to on my tablet.
Yeah,
I don't know how. I can't tell you which way things work.
This is what is so good about DeX. It just because they've intelligently let you redesign apps. I was talking about this on PSE last night, and it's so impressive, DeX, that when you start to work with other systems that go into particularly Windows computers, you can with DeX on Windows, you can resize the windows. With other systems, you're just stuck with it looks like a phone screen. Yes, okay, you can make it look bigger, but it ends up still being in that same ratio of a phone screen. Whereas in DeX, you can actually resize things, and it works it out intelligently. It's so smart. And if
you can do that on Chromebooks as well.
With
apps, you can have them sort of display like they're on your phone screen, and then you can resize the window.
Yeah,
you can make it magnetically clink to the side and resize to half the screen if you need to.
You can do that, but with examples like MeWe, for example, there'll come a point where it's still one central column. It doesn't then fill out to the edges, and with DeX, it just does it properly. I think that I'm really, really impressed with DeX these days. But yes, and good for Google and good for everyone that's working on this and making it all better and make it all happen. Google are working really hard. We'll come to later on making the desktop environment on 12L. In fact, perhaps we should come to that now, should we? The where is it? I've lost it now.
Okay.
There's an article here somewhere which I linked to, which was about... Oh, here it is. Android 13 this is in, which has got a new taskbar and multi-window features just for PCs. So in this one, in Android 13, they're actually making the bottom of the screen look like a Chromebook screen so that you get notifications down the bottom. And I mean, who knows how well that's going to work on a phone screen because it looks really titchy there. But what the point is that Google are working towards the 12L thing into 13 or whatever, and making the dock more sensible and make it more consistent with bigger screens. And I think it's good. Bring it on, I say. Lots of taskbar multi-window features coming on 13, and presumably en route we'll get that on 12L.
Yeah, that does look quite nice, and that pushes. There are people who probably would quite happily have Android as a proper desktop alternative, and this could be their way. Whenever they mentioned about the Android tablets this being the year of the Android tablet, I went back and had a look how long ago it was that I had, I started investing in tablets, and I remember buying the Advent Vega and the Toshiba, I can't remember what it was called.
Libretto.
It was like the Excite or something. No, the Excite or something, the Froyo one that they put out. I've got it sitting over there, but I can't quite see what it was, and it had... It was a terrible tablet. It didn't work very well. And Arcos were pumping out tablets every 15 days or so. Those tablets that ran Froyo and things, they were there because people really wanted the bigger screen affair of the mobile phone, and it was seen as a viable platform to be able to use as a tablet, despite the fact that they'd never taken into account making tablets, and Android wasn't designed for that bigger screen at the time. So with Google being able to adapt Android in such a way that it could work nicely on a desktop in this way, we'll probably start to see all-in-one PCs coming along that run Android 13 with keyboard and mouse. Yeah. And you can just get a cheap, low-powered machine that you can set in your desk, a bit like some of the Chromebooks that are coming out as well, or Chrome desktops that you find, Chrome boxes and things, and even Android 13 could become standard amongst TV platforms and things again, and it just opens up a wider variety of options for people to be able to manipulate hardware.
Well said.
Yeah.
I just looked up a picture of the Libretto, the Toshiba Libretto, and it reminded me. So when it's my turn to do Hark Back again, I might do that, because it brought back great memories. So I stumbled on that one. Sorry.
No, you're okay. I actually had that planned. I'd looked at the Advent Vega and thought, ooh, there's one for Hark Back next week.
Okay, I'll leave it to you then. So
we might be able to go back and look at individual models of certain things. Yeah. But yeah, look at the little bit. I do remember that. I don't think I ever used one, but yeah, we'll talk about that in weeks to come. Yeah. Good. The last thing here we have in Flap.
No, hang on, we missed out a great lump there.
Oh, because we moved. Yeah. Yeah, good call. The I don't know, 16th last thing we have to talk about Flap app is 3D desktops on Windows 11 and 10. What a horrible way to put it. 3D Windows, a 3D desktop. I remember using this bump top, it was, back on Windows Vista. That gave you like a proper desktop with sides. It was almost like you were looking into a box, and you could pin things to the side as well. It was a 3D desktop. Yeah. Whenever you switched between your tasks, it would change to almost like a Android task changer that we've seen in the past, where there's a bunch of cards. Palm, I think Palm OS, WebOS used it as well, where you could turn the cards as well and then be able to flip them off whenever you wanted to close stuff, or choose between them and bring them to the front. It was really quite ambitious, and it ran like a pig's ear, I suppose. But I remember it coming out. And Ted, are you trying this now?
No, I stumbled into this, and I just thought this looks interesting. And I too remember back in the day, I would never have been able to nail it down like you, trying something before like this, and it was really good fun. I can't honestly imagine, looking at the renders of the screens here, it would just be clunky and confusing, I think. But it's just really interesting that people are doing stuff like this and trying things out. And I mean, who knows? I mean, Microsoft might see this and decide, oh yeah, we'll make this a theme, and we'll buy it from these people, and we'll put it into Windows. Just looks interesting. Something different, something quirky. Looks like you're in a room, as you say.
Yeah. See, whenever Vista came along, I remember trying something like this, and it ran like a pig's ear on whatever it was I was using.
Yeah.
I think it was a laptop or the desktop or the AMD that I was maybe running. And I went and I overbuilt a system. I think Core 2 Quad had just come along, possibly. I can't remember it, but it was some sort of significant step up. And I went and bought one of those processors, and it was like £600 or £700 for the processor alone. And one of my friends was like, "You're nuts buying that." And I threw it in, and a whole rake of RAM, and a big glossy graphics card that I still have sitting over there, and ran it. Windows Vista still ran like crap. With something like this as well, I figured that this would just be smooth and lovely, but it wasn't. It was clunky and janky.
Right.
But hopefully over the years they've managed to change it so that it runs a lot nicer. And I don't know if I'm going to try it. I'll let you try it. Go for it, Ted. Try it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I will. It just looked really interesting to have a go at. But there you
go. Okay, well, it's a fun thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
Someone out there will probably like those sorts of things. I'm going to have a go with this. Piwigo? Piwigo.
Yeah.
This is a Google Photos alternative, an open source Google Photos alternative that you can have your own self-hosted photo library. Whether or not you put it on your own server or if you have your own web space or whatever, but you can have your own Google Photos library style thing. And I believe it's free, having a quick look at it this morning.
It is.
You could run it on your NAS.
Unless you want to pay for a
cloud storage.
Yeah, if you need to pay for cloud, it's not free, obviously. But yeah. The source code is free.
But yeah, I hadn't realised there was quite so many of these. Did you have a go with this?
I did not, but Ian Barton did, and he says that there's also a couple more options. Like there's one called Photo Prism, and there's another one called Docker G Photo Sync, and there's obviously people doing this. I just kind of completely trust Google Photos. I mean, I don't take many photographs anymore, but I completely trust Google Photos, and I don't really think about security or blah 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 or anything else. But yeah, maybe we should. I like the way in which Google Photos will just talk to all the other applications, and it's all kind of cross app, and just you can dump stuff and pluck stuff from anywhere. Like for example, if I'm using Blogger, which I do, I can put photos in there directly from Google Photos. Now if you start introducing a Piwigo, whatever it's called, or a Photo Prism, then you start to lose that kind of connectivity and that cross yeah. So yeah, I don't know, it probably wouldn't be for me, but it's an interesting thing.
But you'll probably find that someone, because it's open source, someone will write something slightly better, and it's whenever Google decides, like they did before with Google Drive and the Google Files app on the Chromebook, to sever the connection between it and Google Photos, that you end up a bit kind of lost when you go to do something. But these sorts of things have options, and you can download add-ins. I'm just looking at the Photo Prism one, and you could actually install that on a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, right.
And have it sitting in the background.
Yeah, I think
a hard drive or
I think Ian's into Raspberry Pi, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a really good option. At least just to back up your photos. You could still keep them in Google Photos as well, and maybe Amazon if you pay for that too. And that way you're not going to lose your photos at all. But yeah, it does look like it's got a ton of cool features. They do facial recognition and add to maps and album sharing, and they can deal with various different file formats as well: raw, PNG, HEIF, yeah, bitmaps and all that kind of stuff. And I do wonder if it does, what is it, JXL is the new one that's coming along, that I've noticed that Chrome actually supports natively if you enable the flag.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Never heard of it.
It's a new JPEG compression thing that I think Google's actually pushing to be the next big thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look that up.
So I'll have a look at Docker's G Photos as well, and have a play with that as well, and see. Maybe I'll set up my own photo thing
server
in the coming weeks. Yeah, that'd be cool. Thanks, Ian. Good call. And next up is right, we're going into Evercade territory, Ted. Yeah, there's a bunch of new carts that have been announced for the Evercade. There's two. There's the renovation collection, which looks like a bunch of RPGs and things like that, classic RPGs. And then there's the Gremlin collection, which is one I'm really quite excited about, that has a bunch of old Gremlin games like Zool and things like that, which isn't a particularly great game, but it's a good example of a well thought of game. Aqua Soccer, Utopia, Football Manager 97. Yeah, that bang up to date there. But I'd also noticed that there were two other cartridges that had been announced quite recently. There's an Intellivision Collection 2.
That one looks like it's more up my street. If you look at the screenshots of the games, which I don't know, they look as though they're more up to date and more. The graphics just look, further on. Are they presumably these are later games? Are they
for the Intellivision?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're good old fashioned early 80s.
But the
blocky graphics.
Well, then, yeah, but they're not as blocky graphics as. Sorry, I'm talking about the Morph Cat games. Looking.
Oh, right.
Those games in the Morph Cat Collection 1 look as though they're more advanced than the Intellivision Collection 2. That's what I was trying to say.
Yes, yes. The ones I hadn't got to yet. Morph Cat is the other collection of games. Which I felt a wee bit gypped by this. It's 3 games and 2 bonus titles. One of which is an expansion on one of the games, and the other one is a demo for another one. That's not that much for an Evercade collection. You know, some Evercade collections have about 20 games on them. Some have about 8. This one has 3 and 2 bonus titles. And I don't know. I don't think that's particularly good value for money. I'd like to think that that's going to be a little bit cheaper than the £17 that Evercade usually charges for their cartridges. But that and Intellivision 2 are coming along, and I think that they're 3 rather decent cartridges to carry on with your collection. I do reckon you're probably going to like the Gremlin collection.
I'm more likely, like I was saying just now, to go for ones that are just a bit more advanced, because the ones in the Intellivision one, I just think look kind of just too old to enjoy and. Not, I don't get the nostalgia bit like you do, but the Morph Cat ones I think are better. The first ones that we linked to there are. Oh, there's no screenshots from them, so I can't actually see without running a video, so I won't do that now. Okay.
Well, I've stuck a link there to the Gremlin collection. Right. And you can have a look down those where you've got Hardcore 4x4 Actuous Soccer, Utopia, which is a blinder of a strategy game, and then Zool. So there's only 6 on that one.
Right. Okay.
And one of them looks a bit duff with Brain Bender.
Yeah, but
Hardcore 4x4 would be great.
Yeah, the graphics on the Hardcore 4x4 look like a serious step up, don't they?
Yeah, I have that on the PS1, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, Hardcore 4x4, yeah.
Very good.
Cool. The one notable thing is that there's no new cartridges announced for the VS, which is a bit of a bummer. We're still stuck with the 4 that were announced at launch. But in saying that, I haven't actually picked up my portable Evercade in quite some time.
Right.
I don't even know where it is, come to think of it. But I've been using my VS quite a bit. Now, not in the last 2 weeks, but before that... anytime I had a spare 20 minutes, I'd just whack in a cartridge and go for, that looks quite good, and have a wee play with it. It's such a good games console, the VS. I really heartily recommend it for anyone who wants to sit down with some pals and play classic games.
Very good.
Yeah. You still using your Evercade, or have you not touched it since you got the Switch?
I got that is true, but I also need to send it back, don't I? And I haven't got round to that yet, because when you told me about it, I completely forgot, and time's moving on, and there'll come a point where it's going to be too late to do that. I need to dig out the address and contact them and sort it out. But yeah, it's not been used since we last spoke about it.
Tweet them and ask them.
Yeah.
They're good at getting back to you.
Yeah, okay.
So the next up is one that I hinted at earlier. Netflix are going to be doing an extra member fee of $3 to allow people who are sharing passwords, essentially. Yeah. Well, everyone has different setups and things. Like I have a daughter who doesn't live with us anymore, and she's got her own apartment in the town centre, and I'm a bit concerned that she might still have the Netflix login details. I've told her not to be using my Netflix or my Amazon while she's down there, or Disney Plus, just in case Netflix go, here, your IP address is different between these two, and she assures me that she's not. But she doesn't want to have to go and pay for Netflix all herself.
Change the password.
Yeah, I suppose I could do that. It's a bit mean, mind you, but yeah. Netflix are going to be bringing in Chile, Costa Rica, and Peru a new extra member fee for $3, where it allows people to be able to use their Netflix, and I'm seeing this as more of a on-the-go type thing, where you'll be able to access your Netflix when you're outside of the house, really. I wonder if that's where they're going to be taking this, where you've got, your main charge that you get for using it in the house. But if you're someone who maybe travels a lot and might spend a few days in a hotel or what during the week, you might log into Netflix on a tablet or a laptop or maybe some sort of TV in the hotel room, and that will register a different IP address, and to be able to help clamp down on that, and people who harvest Netflix passwords and use it illegally, they're trying to clamp down on that too. This might be their way of clamping down on it and making a wee bit of extra coin at the same time. It's not a great thing. I can't suggest how Netflix can actually get around this other than doing this right now, but it's something that's going to bother me. And if you haven't got the foresight to be able to go and download a bunch of stuff to Netflix on your tablet or your laptop or whatever whenever you're going travelling, then you may find yourself having to pay an extra $3 to access it outside of the house, or they may cut you off. Ted, what do you think? You obviously use it between your mum's house and your van.
I think the point is that everyone's situation is different. You see, my situation is almost unique, probably. Well, probably not unique, but I have the static. Right, my registered official address is my mum's house. That's where my driving licence goes, and the doctor's surgery. That's where they think I live. My Netflix account is my own Netflix account. It's mine, and I pay for it. And my mum and dad use it at that address, but I also use it down at the static, which is like a mile away.
Yeah.
And so they will all the time be picking up the fact that I have got a different IP address and I'm somewhere else, even though it's a mile away. They don't know my particular situation. They just see they will see two locations using it. Now, we do the decent thing. We have an arrangement whereby I don't use it till 10 p.m. and they use it up to 10 p.m. every day, and it works really well. And I can go and download stuff up there, put my device into airplane mode, and then play it down here. So we've kind of worked it out in a sensible and I think fair way to Netflix shareholders. But there's going to be millions of people that are just getting around the rules, and I think that most people faced with this, once they get past the fact that there's an increase in charge, I think most people will just do the decent thing, and they'll say, right, okay, it's gone up, we make the decision, we use Netflix or we don't. It's going to cost us £2 more a month or whatever it is to do what we're doing, and we've got away with it thus far, and we'll just cough up the £2 if it's important enough to them. And I have mixed feelings about it, and I just think that everyone's situation is different. What about if you're, one of your family members is at university in halls, and are they then not allowed to use the family Netflix account? What about if you?
No, they're not.
What about if you've got?
There's a student offer.
Right. Okay. So that's the point is though that there are so many different situations for different people, and it's going to be difficult to means test all of them.
Well, you can see how widespread it actually is. I was talking to someone who shocked me a while ago that they, with their, I think, 4 siblings, split Disney Plus between them, and they all watch it, and they're all logged in their different houses. So they all 4 of them and their families access Disney Plus in this way. And that's the reason why these sorts of charges are having to come in, because people do share passwords by family.
Yeah.
My daughter was at university and lived away from home, and I like to think that she did. She told me that she did, but she had both Amazon Prime Student and Netflix Student discount things on hers, and she was able to use Netflix up there. but then my having my father-in-law being in hospital for a couple of months there, he wasn't able to use any of his because he couldn't log in to them, and it got me thinking that, you know, if you were to have to spend some time in hospital, could Netflix then cancel you?
Yeah.
Or send you a warning to say, no, you need to pay an extra $3 because you're stuck in hospital for the next 3 months.
But isn't it reasonable to pay an extra $3? If you're stuck in hospital for 2 months, for goodness sake, just pay the $3. All right, some people genuinely couldn't afford to pay an extra $3, but, you know, just for a set amount of time, you say, I'm in hospital, I'll cough up the $3, which is about £2 for us, and let's make it all above board.
But then I see a bit of talk about currency conversions here. Say Chile, $3 in Costa Rica. How much does that actually work out for it to translate over to the UK? Is it going to be an extra $5 that they just whack on because that's a nice round number?
Is that US dollars?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, they go into it, but I'm not going into the breakdown.
£2.28. There you go. Three
Okay.
American dollars is £2.28.
But is that what they're going to charge here? So if they turn around and say, right, okay, well, it's going to be £5, are people just going to be able to go, oh, well, we'll carry on the way we're going, and all of us pooling here, the 4 families that are using Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever they happen to be using, will they all have to pay an extra £1.33 each into it, and then just carry on with it? Which means Netflix are going to go, oh, well, it hasn't made any difference whatsoever. We're just pulling in a wee bit more money. We're not pulling in full subscriptions. So let's just keep upping it. And then there's going to be the out-of-the-house cost that everyone's going to have to pay if you end up going to hospital. But you would have been using it in the house had you not been in hospital.
Yeah. But then someone else is using it in the house. And that's the same thing with the TV license, that I'm not supposed to use my television at the same time as Mum and Dad are because I haven't got a license. I'm not allowed to have a TV license down at the static. And so it is considered to be a holiday home for the house. And so we're not allowed to watch television at the same time. Now, I'm not saying that we strictly observe that, and we haven't got that worked out, but it seems to work out all right, but it's probably illegal. Anyway, there'll come a point with Netflix when if they raise it too much, then it'll be worth people just buying their own account, and perhaps that's part of the thing. You know, if they did raise it by £5, then for goodness sake, it's only $5.99 to get your own account anyway. So you might as well just get another account.
But my point is that the only people who lose out are, well, me, because I'm going to have to pay that regardless if I leave the house and have to go to hospital or go on a business trip. Yeah. So I end up paying a whole load more whenever other people just go back.
Well, just tell the whole family they're not allowed to use it while you're in hospital.
But I think it's by IP address. They detect what IP address you're using.
Oh yeah, but you can. But if they don't detect, if they suddenly detect the hospital IP address, but there's no one using it at your home address, then that presumably is all right.
Yes, but if you're paying for 4 streams, which I do, I pay the max so that we can have 4 devices connected at one time. That means I'm overpaying for what I'm actually using.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, it's a really difficult one for them to solve, and I think they'll just go for whatever makes them the most money, as opposed to what's the best value for money for the customer.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, moving into ChromeOS news, where, Ted, you've got loads of stuff to talk about.
No, I haven't. I've got 2, and they're very quick ones and very probably boring to most people. There's a new splash screen that comes on when you open up your Chromebook, which is a dark screen instead of a blinding white one. I've always complained about that. As soon as you turn your screen on, it's good grief, burn your retinas. And now they've changed it to a dark one. But you can only get this at the moment if you're on the developer mode and on version 101. So it'll be coming to everyone else in due time. And the second one is the downloading UI, which is getting more information as you download in terms of progress bars. So I can't see this yet because it's only on Canary builds, on some builds, and they're talking about bringing it to Windows as well. but there will be a button on the top of your. At the moment, if you want to look at what's downloading, you have to go to settings and downloads, and you can see it going on there. But they're going to put a button in the taskbar, not the taskbar, the top bar, and you can just click on that and see what's going on quickly. So that's it. Just 2 quick changes to ChromeOS to look out for.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing. Do you remember? Was it last week? I think I sent you a picture of an update that I got on my Chromebook.
Oh yeah, that's right.
For update peripherals.
Yeah.
I got a message that popped up that said firmware update, which is bizarre. And I took a screenshot of what it said that it was doing, and I sent it to Ted. It was a critical update, and it won't tell me what it is actually to do with. I stuck it on Reddit as well, and no one was able to tell me anything about it, which is a bit peculiar.
Yeah.
But yesterday, I sat down and I got the update to version 100. And then I got this again, which was the firmware update. And looking at the picture of it and the screenshot, it's exactly the same critical update downloaded. And, download it, install. I don't have to restart after I do that firmware update. It just says update applied.
I
don't quite understand.
That's an Acer thing, isn't it?
It must be.
It's not Google.
Well, yeah. But it's after I turn it off and on again. So I'd done the restart for version 100. And whenever it boot up, it flashed this at me going, you need to do this firmware update. And I just wish it would tell me what the firmware update was for, or give me a bit of a hint. Is it updating something to do with the backlight for the keyboard, or I was hoping that it was something to do with the refresh rate, but it seems that that's going to be built into the next update of Chrome. Actually, where they're going to do a more flexible refresh rate that'll help with Steam whenever it eventually arrives.
Oh, yeah. It does raise the question though about how much of your Chromebook is actually Chrome OS and how much of it is your manufacturer poking their nose in and needing to control bits of hardware on their machine and how that's managed. And I never really thought about that before, but yeah, it's interesting.
Well, it must be. It's a critical update, so there must be something that is inherently flawed with this. Without doing that update, and it doesn't really give you too much of an option. It's like you need to download this, you do it, and poof, it's done. Whereas Asus, whenever they have a motherboard that they put out, and you have updates for the motherboard, a BIOS update or something, they don't tell you there's a new BIOS for your motherboard. You're expected to go and find it yourself.
Yeah.
And motherboards have had problems with network adapters and all those sorts of things, and people have said, no, go and check your BIOS and see if it's got a fix. And yes, there are critical fixes that are built into BIOS updates, but Asus or motherboard manufacturers don't turn around and shake you and go, no, you need to do this, your computer's unstable. Whereas the Chromebook seems to have some sort of extra level of notification where, yeah, you have an update to your peripheral and it needs to be done, and it's nothing to do with Google,
yeah.
But it's not going to tell you what the peripheral was that's updated.
Right to Acer.
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling they won't respond.
Fair enough.
But Googling as well, I don't see too many people having it as well,
Right.
seeing that update coming. It's just me alone.
Oh, poor you.
Weird. Unless it's a virus. Something to do with that. I've got the first Chromebook virus, perhaps.
Yeah.
Who knows? Bit of malware. All right. Hark Back. Ted, you have something extremely nerdy for us now.
Just in really a quick one in relation to your last one, which was about VHS tape lengths, which we spoke about on the last show. And this is vinyl record specifications and speeds and how that came about. And I just did a bit of exploring really about how this all happened and what when I was a kid, we had 45s and 33s, and they were 10-inch records and they were 7-inch records, and we had some extended play ones which were 7 inches that with double the amount of stuff on it. We had 12-inch singles now and again, But looking into the history of the speeds which were done, my dad had some 78s, as I think I mentioned before, but there was also a whole range of other things that were tried going back to like 1912 or something, and lots of different speeds tried. There was 45 and 78 and 33 and a third, but there was also 16 and 2/3, and there was 8 and 1/3, and there was experiments done with 10-inch discs as well. I think, in actual fact, I did have some 10-inch discs at one point, and that was quite interesting. But the remastered LPs that I've been getting recently, what I say in the last 10 years, they sometimes I take them out of the packaging and put them on, and they're running wrong. And I look at the package, and they're 45 RPM, and I thought, oh right, okay then. So I change it over and then listen to it, often wondering why it's been done that way. Because they're 12-inch albums, and it takes twice as much space. They turn it into a double album, and it just seems to. Anyway, I looked this up, and apparently it's to do with the quality of remastering. Because if you've got wider groove spacing and shorter playing time, it permits a broader dynamic range and louder recording level, which also apparently applies to 12-inch singles. So the further the grooves are apart from each other, then the better the quality of the recording, it seems. And that's why they do these LPs at 45 and make it twice as long. I still honestly don't understand how needles, styluses, reproduction of noise works with records. I really don't. I've read about it time and again. I've tried to brainwash myself into understanding how the sound comes out, and I just don't get it. I can't understand it. So we have to bypass that bit. But what was interesting was the history, and the Hark Back really is the history to all these different speeds and sizes of vinyl and how they're made. I'll put a link in the show notes to the Wikipedia page, which goes into huge detail about the history of the whole thing and what started with cylinders and turned into discs and what they made the early discs out of, and then where vinyl comes into it, which actually isn't used anymore, but actually the name vinyl is just applied to records, even though it's not really applicable. Really, really interesting stuff, and I learned a lot through reading that. And there's a table here as well which tells you what diameter of discs is available, what they're called, because there's some odd names in there that I've never heard of, and what the RPMs are, and what you can expect from the duration. I don't know if do you understand the physics of how records get noise to your speakers?
Not really, no. Just a vibration thing, and I'll go with that. You know, it's just it's one of those things of how you change sound to data. You know, bips and bops and that kind of thing. So you just take it that the technology does it for you.
Yeah, that's what I've done. I've tried to read about it. Good explanations that normal people presumably can understand, and I just don't get it. I can't understand how it works, but I'm not a physicist, so like you. But it was interesting reading about why the wider grooves are significant for better quality. So that was interesting.
It is, yeah, and it's amazing that just the diameters of records. It just makes you think. You really just think that there's the 12-inch and the 7-inch.
Yeah.
They were the most popular, obviously, but there were other ones around that. Now I think about it, I had some of the 10 inches as well. I had a few singles, and then I had a few full albums on 10-inch too. But I never thought about. I just looked at the back and whacked it on and played it at the speed that it told me to play it at.
Yeah. And also, do you remember the floppy 7-inch discs that were on magazine covers? They came with and they were just bits of film, and you think that can't possibly be a record, and you put it on the record player and it plays. You think, good grief, it doesn't even need to be rigid. This is just
or round. It could be square as well.
Yeah, that's right. I had a heart-shaped record once.
Oh right.
and when you start playing with picture discs and coloured discs. It's great fun. My record collection, which I tend to ignore most of the time, there's some lovely stuff in there. I've specifically bought, for example, Bat Out of Hell on blood red vinyl, and it's just great fun to look at. Yes, of course. Why wouldn't you have a red vinyl Bat Out of Hell album? I do love my records. I love having the collection. A bit like you with your DVDs and stuff. It's so satisfying to have a collection of anything, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, that is absolutely. I'm currently working on my record collection as well, getting it brought up because I've got dusted off the record player and some nice speakers as well. So I'll be getting those on when I get some time off work in the next couple of weeks. But have a look at Tech Moon. I'm sure he's done something to do with how the stylus translates to sound, and he's really good at putting it in words that people in layman terms, if you like. He's a quality channel out on YouTube, Tech Moon.
Okay, I'll have a look at that then. I might well have already seen it because I did research it quite heavily a while ago, and no one could explain it to me. But I'll try that. Yep.
Yeah, cool. All right, the bargain basement. The first one is one that I threw out on Twitter this morning. This is the APC by Schneider Electric. Schneider not being, I don't know if that's Amstrad in Germany, but maybe it is. You folks can tell me if you happen to be from Germany. APC by Schneider Electric. This is a backup, uninterrupted power supply. 8 gang. It's got 8 plug outlets, but there's a backup battery built into it as well, and a surge protector, and it's even got 2 USB ports as well. It looks like a really cool thing that you can plug your computer into, so that if the power goes out in the area, you have time to be able to go and shut things down rather than just losing everything, as I had in the weeks gone by. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. It was £140, but currently it's £98 and 38p. And frustratingly, it does not ship to Northern Ireland because we're second-class citizens, and it's amazing that we actually have electricity here. It hasn't been shut off because we're just, I don't know, a bunch of farmers or something like that. I don't know, but I'd love one of these actually. 9 minutes or 90 minutes run time. And up to 16 hours, depending on what you plug into it. So if your power goes out, you can still use it afterwards, and the battery can charge your phones and things like that if you need to. So it's a really good power supply to have, especially at this time whenever we have the potential of electricity blackouts, depending on going forward with gas and fuel shortages and stuff. Ted, do you have one of these?
No, it looks a right beast. I was trying to work out what it was, to be honest, and you've explained it very well. But I was trying to find out what the size of the battery is in it, but I guess it doesn't really matter because the data is up to 16 hours, like you said. So depending on what you're doing with it, but it could only be 90 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't say the battery size.
No, I mean, if you're trying to run a fridge with it, it's not going to last long, or a microwave, or... No, but I don't know. Yeah, really interesting device, certainly.
Yeah, it could save your hard drive or a piece of work that you happen to be using. But it'll confuse you as well. You know where you stand whenever everything turns off around you. But if everything... you might not actually notice that everything's turned off in it, until it's too late as well, if you just have your computer plugged into this.
I get that with a laptop. Sometimes the power's gone off and the laptop's still on. You think, what? oh yeah, the battery. There's a battery in the laptop.
It's your Wi-Fi that you notice. Oh, the internet's gone out again. Oh, right, all the power's off. Okay. But yeah, it could be really handy, this. I didn't realize there were quite so many on Amazon, and there's some pretty good prices as well. But this one seems to be a bit of a steal. And to be honest, the plastic reminds me of an Amstrad CPC 464 and 6128. And it's got the Schneider branding on there, so I don't know. It might be something to do with that.
Yeah.
Cool. What do you got?
The Xiaomi Pad 5, which we've spoken about at length on this show, as it was being developed, and then it came out, and at last it's been dropped from 369 to 339. Not a huge drop, and I'm sure it will come down more, but there's 30 quid off of that now. We raved about it, and we both said that it looked really neat, and the specs were great. But yeah, 30 quid off at Xiaomi's UK website.
Do we know if it's getting Android 12?
12L.
Yeah.
This is something which I would expect Xiaomi to do, but I don't know. Actually, do you know, I can't remember all the conversations we had about it, and I can't even remember why we were raving about it so much, but I remember we were, so the specs must be pretty good.
I think we recommended it as a tablet to buy to Gareth Williams whenever he was looking to get rid of his tablet die.
Oh, okay.
It was a particularly good deal, and it was at that 369 for quite some time, but now it's down to 339. Even better deal. Gareth, get one of those.
Yeah.
Right, smart plugs. It's been a while, but yeah, more smart plugs. TP-Link Tapo smart plug Wi-Fi outlets. There is a pack of 4 of them. It's been reduced in price from £50 down to £27. I have actually been restructuring my wireless plugs recently and having great fun doing it, changing what's connected to what and what turns on and what turns off, and having 4 gangs with everything on it and things. It's great. Love smart plugs. They are so handy.
You've not mentioned them for a good number of weeks.
That's because I had so many, and I haven't run out yet, but I know my mum's starting to like them too. She just loves being able to turn on a light whenever she needs to by saying it. So I think everyone could do with more smart plugs in their lives.
Fair enough.
But you have to remember that it occupies a space on your Wi-Fi router. So if you have to check and see how many items your Wi-Fi router supports before you go and fill your house full of them. Because it may be that your Wi-Fi router only supports 40 items, and if you stick a pack of 4 on, that could take you over the 40, and then you'll start getting weird things happening on your Wi-Fi network.
Indeed.
What's next?
Ian Barton is next. Second shot this week with the Poco F3 5G, he noticed, available for £100 off, 249 quid. Very neat phone, 256 gigabyte with 8 gigs of RAM, Super AMOLED screen, 120 hertz as well. It's a big phone, the 6.67 inch kind of version, Snapdragon 870. Looks like a really good deal. I also put in the Poco M4 Pro, which is very similar specifications in many ways, but it's got a different chipset, not quite so good maybe. But it's a 6.43 inch screen, which is nicer and smaller, I think. And it's got a bigger battery, and so that one's in there as well. 249 quid for the Poco M4 Pro. That's not a bargain basement, but I just thought I'd chuck it in anyway. The specs are quite similar in many ways between the two phones, so for the same price you could take your choice.
Yeah. 2 delicious looking devices there. Yeah. I've been looking at Windows 11 laptops just to scratch and itch. I sometimes get a wee bit frustrated that Chrome can't do certain things like, I don't know, install Steam or GOG or something like that. So I've been flirting with the idea of having Windows 11 on the go, and I was looking around and I noticed this one that it looks really good. It's got one flaw, I'll point out, but it might not be for everyone. The Lenovo IdeaPad 5i. This is a 15-inch full HD laptop with a Core i5 inside of it, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of SSD storage. It's got the Intel Iris Xe graphics chip as well, and it runs Windows 10s, but I imagine Windows 11 can be shoehorned on there, hopefully. It's platinum grey. I haven't actually checked to see whether this is Windows 11 compliant now that I mention it. I imagine it's got to be.
I don't know. There was a problem. Windows 10s is what came with the Surface Go, and you could then it into ordinary Windows 10. But whether those are then upgradable to 11, I don't really know.
Yeah, they've got to be. They've been out for a while, a couple of years, but I can't imagine them being too old to not be able to harbour it. But it's down in price from £600 to £429, which is a significant saving. Yeah. The one flaw that I've found with it, it's a bit of a gamer thing, if you like, is that the cursors, the the arrow keys are not terribly nice. The up-down one sort of shares one button, and you've got 3 buttons in a row essentially. So you have to do the up-down is cut in half, which I don't like.
Yeah.
I like a dedicated.
That's horrible, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but
the
but that's not going to bother too many.
The numeric keypad is really thin and tall as well, isn't it? The keys,
I suppose, yeah.
That's a really odd keyboard. They're obviously trying to. How big is the screen? 15 inch. You said, yeah, yeah. It looks like it's a too small a keyboard for the size of the device, doesn't it?
Yeah, just having a quick check here to see whether or not it supports Windows 11.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that too.
It does.
Does it? Oh,
yes.
good. So I wonder if that
yeah.
means you've got to put it onto ordinary 10 first to get to 11. Or maybe there's an
Probably.
11S, is there? I never thought about that.
No, we would have heard of that before if there was one.
Fair enough.
But I reckon this would be a pretty tidy little deal for anyone who's not too enthusiastic about the cursor keys on their laptop. But I really liked it. If it wasn't for that, I would seriously debate it. And looking across quite a lot of the Lenovo range, they seem to do this quite a bit, which is really disappointing because they've got some cracking deals on Amazon at the moment for Windows laptops with decent specs. Yeah. Just crap keys.
Yeah. It depends how far you want to take it from base, because if the answer is not very far, not very often, then you can just use your own keyboard with it, I suppose. But yeah, £200 off nearly. That's a bit of a bargain, isn't it?
Defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Right, last up is the Razer Nomo version 2 gaming speakers, which is something you brought to Bargain Basement some months ago and were raving about, and I decided on a whim, because they were £21 off and 89 quid, that I wanted to try these, and I got them, and they're still £21 off now, and they are just stunning. The first thing that hits you is that they're big. They are huge. I had no idea they were so big. They're massive. But anyway, laying that aside, the bass is just amazing for the size of the units, obviously. And you've got, on the right-hand side one, you've got volume control and a bass knob as well, so you control the bass and the volume on the device itself. You can also plug in your headphones into the back. You can also plug in your phone. There's an aux in on the back as well, which then makes it across to the 2 speakers. But the bass is just booming. I can't really utilize it properly here, but I just know it's fantastic. There's also a chroma version if you really want dancing lights. That's currently 40 quid off as well, £130 instead of 170. Otherwise they're exactly the same. And there's also not on special offer, 499 quid, there's a Razer Nomo Pro 2.1 with tweeters on top and a subwoofer unit as well, and an illuminator control pad. So it depends how mad you want to go with the lights and bells and whistles, really. But these basic ones, 89 quid, are just amazing sounding. You were right to put this on before.
They look delicious. They really do. Oh, I like them. There's actually one picture, having looked down some of the reviews, where it seems that is there like foam or something around the outside, or a bit of fur around it? I think
you'll find that's the packaging.
No. See if you go down to the reviews. Yeah, okay. Alexander H has said better than expected, and he's got a picture of his computer with a battleship, and the front cannons on a battleship, and there's speakers either side of a screen, and on both speakers you can see there's like a bit of carpet or something or around the outside of it. Whose
review is he looking at?
Alexander H.
Oh, here he is. All right. Oh, yeah.
April 2021.
Right, I'm looking at the photograph now, and you're seeing some fur around it.
Yeah, the one on the right is particularly predominant, but whenever you look at the one on the left, you can see there is like a bit of coating.
He's got the bubble wrap still on them.
Oh, is that what it is? I wonder if he knows he can take that off.
Yeah, they've also got this hole in the back. You know, the bass hole thingy that they put in the back of speakers. It's also got those as well, which you can stuff full of foam if you want to, so it's not so bassy. But yeah, that's just packaging, I assure you.
Right, okay. 90 quid for those. That's good.
They're really lovely.
Like them.
They're so nice. I'd like to be able to... Well, when there's no one around on the site, I'll give them a proper blast. But you can just tell, even at low volume, when you turn the bass up, you can just tell they sound lovely. Really nice.
I do. And you could also stick them to the boot of a car and make the car look like it's got turbo boosters.
Yeah. They're big, though. Let me see how... they're probably about, from front to back, the actual speaker bit is about 8 inches, I would say. And the circumference of the front is about 3 to 4 inches. They're big beasties.
Yeah. Wow. Circumference, you say, as opposed to diameter and radius.
Yeah, sorry.
Circumference.
Diameter it should be, shouldn't it? Back to times table again, aren't we?
Yeah, because that was quite small, actually, if it's 3 to 4.
Diameter.
So pi r squared. Work out the circumference now, Ted. Go for it.
Did you know that the diameter is twice the radius? Yes, we did.
Yes.
Some things stick in my brain, just not times tables.
Right. Well, that's a quality option there for yous, the listeners. Yous, yeah, themans that are listening to us. All right, well, we're going to bring it to a close there because I've got some family commitments that I need to rush away to. And you can get in touch with us by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk, and there's also Tech Addicts UK on Twitter as well. You can find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles, and Ted, where can they find you?
TedSalmon.com, that's where I hang out. If you want to buy me a coffee, it's at paypal.me/TedSalmon. If you get lost or you want to access any of our audio podcasts or our MeWe groups, then head for TedSalmon.com. Links there to everything.
Rip, roaring, rootin', tootin', and we'll see you next week. Take care
Bye.
now.